Whenever you think this is the worst play from the Raiders, they prove you wrong and come up with an even worse idea. And man, what we just witnessed in Kansas City was absolutely brutal. 31-0. The Chiefs demolished us. And honestly, I don't even know where to start with this one. You know what the craziest stat is? And now one thing is clear, the Raiders season is over. I had a little hope left in me when they got win against the Titans, but with this loss, it's over. And Geno's situation is also not so good. At the end of the game, Pete Carroll tried Kenny Pickett for limited snaps. Although his start was not good, but this hints that change has been made mentally. What's up, Raiders Nation? Welcome to the NFL Playbook, Raiders. Probably the Raiders played the worst game of their history. Look, they ran only 30 offensive plays the entire game. Let me say that again, 30 offensive plays. And apparently that's the fewest plays an NFL team has run since 2002. That's not just bad, that's historically terrible. How can you even think about a win when you can't even stay on the field? The Chiefs were just offensive machines out there. They were so efficient, constantly getting into third and short situations and converting every single time. Meanwhile, our offense couldn't get anything going. We couldn't convert a third down to save our lives, couldn't sustain any drives, and this is what happens when everything goes wrong at once. I mean, they probably ran more plays during warm-ups than in the actual game. That's insane. I can't even wrap my head around how that's possible in a professional football game.
Now look, I'm not going to sit here and make excuses, but let's be real about something. The Raiders played terrible, period. Hard stop. We're missing a lot of key players, period. Hard stop. And honestly, we don't know what the plan is from top to bottom, period. Hard stop. But I also have to acknowledge that the Chiefs are about to hit a serious stride. They're as healthy as they've been in 3 or 4 years with all their offensive weapons back. Pat Mahomes was only in for 5 drives, and guess what? 5 drives, 5 touchdowns. He was efficient, used his legs to move the chains, and they just look like a good, smart offense that takes what the defense gives them. And man, we were happy to give it to them. What really frustrates me is that we can't sustain any drives on offense. Someone asked Pete Carroll in the post-game press conference if he thought about getting Geno under center more. And you know what he said? He said, yeah, of course that was part of the plan, but we couldn't even get to it. When you run that few plays and can't get anything going, you can't execute your game plan. You can't run block properly. You can't get Geno involved in the running game. It's just bad all around. And this isn't just one bad game against a tough opponent. This is a continuation of problems we've seen all season long. Here's what really gets me, though. I think fans would be less frustrated about this entire situation if there was a recognizable style and identity we were trying to play with. Like, who are we? When they hired Pete Carroll, I was actually excited. After losing Gruden the way we did and then the Antonio Pierce situation, I thought bringing in a guy like Pete would at least give us some direction. At the very least, you know he wants guys to compete. He wants to play hard defense, tough defense. The Seahawks under Pete Carroll have an identity. They lived all those years with Russell Wilson and Marshawn Lynch, and you knew exactly what kind of team they were. So I was like, all right, it'll take some time, but a culture will develop, an identity will develop. Well, here we are, and I still don't know who we are, who we want to be, or who we're trying to be. That's more alarming to me than even getting blown out like this, because sometimes you just get blown out. Teams are good, the Chiefs especially. But this is a continuation of deeper issues.
Look, now many people are saying that the Raiders didn't have their star players. That's why the Raiders couldn't win this match. Brock Bowers wasn't there. Jacoby Myers wasn't there. Maybe to some extent this is correct, but how much difference would it have made? I mean, how many times did the ball leave Geno Smith's hands? How many times did Geno try to run? There are only 18 total passing attempts and only 11 rushing attempts. Geno could only manage 21 yards on 6 tries. So I don't think even if these two were there, the result would have been any better. You know, the real problem wasn't the players. It was the playbook, it was coaching, and it was the execution. And the worst part, whenever there was a little momentum in the game, penalties would stop the game. You can't win when you're getting put behind the sticks with penalties constantly. Every time we made a third down stop, boom, penalty. Now look, some people might complain about the Chiefs getting favorable calls, but when you look at the replays, the penalties are happening. You can't put yourself in positions where you're giving the refs something to call. We're being undisciplined, we're not executing, and it's just ugly. We don't have the talent to overcome that, especially against a team like the Chiefs. Defensively, we were playing really soft. We're trying not to get beat over the top, but we're just getting peppered underneath. That's what the Chiefs do. They're extremely efficient when it comes to hitting you with these short passes. Patrick Mahomes has become a master of the quick game, getting these passes to his receivers, running RPOs, and now you add Rashee Rice back into the equation, and we were the first team to face this version of the Chiefs with him healthy. It's just too much to overcome, especially when you're shooting yourself in the foot constantly. I remember in the first or second quarter, Genty had a nice run going, and it got called back because of a procedure penalty. I'm sitting there like, guys, we can't even get off the ground here. It's one thing to say good teams don't have that stuff happen regularly, but people complain about the Chiefs getting calls. The reality is the Chiefs put themselves in positions where they force other teams to make mistakes. They play right up to the line with the rules, they're aggressive, and usually the more aggressive team gets the benefit of the doubt more often than not. There's no deep conspiracy, I promise you. We just need to be better.
The identity issue keeps coming back to me, though. Part of having an identity comes from talent, and not having Brock Bowers is a big deal. Now we're waiting to hear about Max Crosby's status, and that's another huge deal. From a personnel standpoint, I know the GM understands they had a lot of cap space last year, and they'll have a lot moving forward this year, but we have so many holes to fill. I'm not even sure where to start, to be honest. You'd like to think finding a franchise quarterback is where you begin, but there are just so many holes everywhere. We might get some guys off the books depending on how they handle Geno's situation. Pete loves Geno, but we'll see how Spytek views him and how Tom Brady views him if he's involved in those decisions. Look, I've stuck up for Geno because I understand there's context to his struggles, but he just hasn't been good enough. Is he worth the money we're paying him? Especially when you look at what's happening with Sam Darnold up in Minnesota right now after we traded for Geno, it makes you wonder if we got sold a lemon. Maybe Geno's peak has come and gone. The 30 plays thing, I just can't get over that. I've seen some bad offensive games before, but to not even feel like you had a chance, to watch them just squeeze the life out of the entire game, I don't know how Pete wasn't pulling his hair out. That was incredibly hard to watch. Not only did we get outplayed, but all the bricks went to the Chiefs too. Mahomes almost threw 3 or 4 picks that just felt incomplete and got dropped. When it rains, it pours. I've never seen a game like that where you get outplayed and every single break goes against you. Devin White had a great strip sack and the ball bounced right to a Chiefs defender. It's just rough. I'm starting to wonder about the patience this regime is going to get after today's performance. We saw Antonio Pierce's teams be feisty with Aiden O'Connell and Gardner Minshew. They at least came with an edge. They played with an edge. There was some idea of who they were going into games, especially against the Chiefs. Today was just lifeless. It felt like there wasn't anything on the line, and that boggles my mind. The Chiefs are probably the best team in the league, so why not go big game hunting? I don't know what we're holding back for or who we're waiting for. It's week 8. I can see Max Crosby's frustration week to week, and I'm imagining that locker room is starting to really question what this is all for. Teams lose sometimes, you go through rough stretches, but if there's clarity of purpose, that sets the tone for how you prepare, how you practice, how guys show up and play for each other. Yeah, losing sucks. Nobody wants that. But if I'm putting my body on the line in service of something more than just a paycheck, if I understand what we're building here, that's different. But right now, I don't know what the plan is, and I'm really curious how they address that moving forward. This bye week is going to tell us a lot about this coaching staff and where we're headed.